How generative AI is continuing to affect employment and work in general is something that we need to continually keep an eye on and continually talk about and address because it's only going to increase as far as the impact that it's having on work in general. Now, there's a new report that recently came out. This is from the Institute for Public Policy Research. IPIR is a British-based organization that has come out with this information. So they conducted this study. And this is really powerful because even though this is looking at the UK specifically, this has applications to the rest of the world. I know there's differences between developing countries and already fully developed countries, but there's a lot that we can see here. There's a lot that we can learn. So I want to show you several different slides here that address the information within this report because it's very impactful and there's a lot for us to really look at and start to contemplate as far as how does this affect teaching? How does this affect what we need to be focusing on as far as what degrees need to be maybe changing? Maybe we need to be modifying certain things in order to ensure that students are developed in the right way so that they can succeed in this new environment. This report is really powerful because it talks about this sort of phased implementation as far as how adoption is occurring with the AI. So as we move through these different phases, we move through higher levels of adoption and integration of the AI, well, then that's going to affect employment, that's going to affect work in general. And so more and more people's jobs are going to be exposed to being replaced or at least being augmented in some way because of AI. This shows different phases, and this shows how as it moves from left to right, it's going to affect more and more jobs and different types of jobs. So that means that everyone is going to be exposed in some way. Here we see that according to their study, they're expecting, depending on the phase, that this is going to affect 11% to 59% of jobs as far as the different tasks that are open to exposure to generative AI. I really also appreciate what they said here at the bottom. It says that none of these phases will occur naturally, but the capabilities and commercial benefits of generative AI will likely be a strong pull. That's exactly it. We have to remember that a business is in business to make money. So of course they're going to start to integrate AI if it's going to be beneficial to them as far as saving them money, making them more effective, efficient. Of course the AI is going to be implemented, and that's going to affect more and more jobs. The other great part of this is this reference from The Economist. It states that Goldman Sachs suggests that only 5% of chief executives expect AI to have a significant impact on their business within 1 to 2 years, but 65% think that it will have an impact in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, the big thing here is that that reference is actually from 2023. We're already a long way into 2024. So the bad news is that this is coming very quickly, right? It's coming, and it's not stopping, it's not slowing down. And if anything, it's accelerating. So we definitely need to keep that in mind as well. I also really appreciate within this study that they talk about their methodology for assessing exposure to generative AI. This is really beneficial because now any nation could use this study, use this methodology, and then apply that to their specific region, their specific area, to see how this might affect different jobs, different work environments within their specific sector. This chart is really great because it talks about the different types of jobs here. We have everything from personal service, caregiving, elementary administration, health professionals, all the way up to secretarial, customer service, administrative occupation. And if you look here, you see that teaching and educational professionals, well, it's only at 10% exposure. So that's pretty good. That's pretty nice until you realize that they're talking about basically phase 0, phase 1, as far as the amount of exposure. So in this level or in this phase, teaching and educational professionals is at 10%. But if we then move to phase 2 and look at teaching and educational professionals, well, now we're way up to 50%. So that's a big difference. That's a lot more exposure. So that's something that we in academia need to think about. Well, why do we have this exposure? Why is education going to be changing so much? And then we need to talk about it and address it. Well, if there is going to be this much augmentation, what does that mean for quality of education? What does that mean for the type of instruction that we do, the type of assessments that we give? All of this needs to be taken into consideration. The study also provides some specific examples of jobs that are already being affected by generative AI in the US labor market. So it goes through, gives several different examples coming from human resources, coming from customer service areas, as well as Hollywood, TV industry, all sorts of different things. So a lot of different examples to help you see what's already occurring and what's going to be happening much more in the future as well. Another great part of this study is that it doesn't just give this doom and gloom information, but it also tries to provide some different possibilities, some different objectives is what they call it, as far as how this might be addressed. So this is very powerful because it goes through and actually gives some specific things that need to be at least considered. Things like adjusting different policies, different rules, regulations, talking about incentives, talking about maybe different tax breaks, how that could be used. And the big one that I really like is that they also mention this idea of, well, we need to ensure that we're keeping humans in the loop. We're still having humans in different specific strategic areas where a human will always need to be there in order to properly monitor the AI, in order to properly have effective human empathy. Even if we reach an AI that can do something similar, it's going to be important on an ethical standpoint to have those humans there at different areas within the overall work environment. But again, that's not going to happen on its own. That's going to require legislation. That's going to require specific policies, mandates, all these different things. It also addresses different things like maybe we need to rethink how Social Security works or the social safety nets. Different countries have different implications for that, as well as maybe universal basic income. That's an idea that's been thrown around. There's lots of issues associated with it, but maybe some combination of all of these things are needed. So that's an important part to think about. Well, what can be done? In academia, that's our main mission, right? Is to try and prepare society for the future. So this study really goes a long way to helping us to identify all these different possibilities, different possible solutions, but also specifically to see what's coming. So we need to use this information. We need to start having more and more talks about this and then try to decide what can be done. How is this going to affect academia? What are some decisions that need to go forward? How does this affect strategic planning for universities and other educational institutions? All this needs to be looked at. All this needs to be thought about and addressed as we move forward. And remember, learning is for life. I appreciate everyone watching. Please like, subscribe, share this with all your friends so that we can continue to develop this community of practice.